Welcome to section 3. This is about principle 2, covering the enterprise end to end. We had discussed this briefly earlier in a previous section. It was about integrating COBIT 5's governance of enterprise IT into the overall enterprise governance. Primarily, that meant that COBIT 5 does not focus only on IT function, but also all functions and processes within the enterprise. And that's because information and technologies are need to be dealt by everybody, so they become assets for everyone in the organization, not just for the IT function or department. And the end-to-end also means there should be consideration to include everything and everyone, meaning anything and anyone who is internal or external, which is relevant to the governance and management of enterprise information and related IT. With that, let's get into some more details of this principle. You will see something very similar here, maybe differently worded. So I'm just reading this first point here. COBIT 5 addresses governance and management of information and related technology from an enterprise-wide end-to-end perspective. So what does it mean? Essentially the same that I mentioned earlier. It integrates the governance of enterprise IT into the overall enterprise governance. And COBIT 5 integrates into any governance system. And it also aligns with the latest views on governance. And it's worth discussing a little bit about what governance is once again. Governance is essentially a system of directing and controlling. And it controls the organization through various activities. Primarily, they evaluate, direct, and monitor activities. The evaluate looks at the current and future situation based on approved plans and proposals. So approved plans give a perspective of the current situation, and the proposals are about the future situation during the evaluation. Direction is about creating and deploying strategies and policies that ensure objectives are met, which means direction looks into creating principles and policies. Then we have the monitoring aspect, which ensures that the policies are followed, which is about conformance, and also performance against the strategies is monitored as whether they are at an acceptable level or not. And in any organization, the governance activities, and in fact, the governance is influenced by the stakeholders and the organizations or the enterprise needs, and also their legal or regulatory requirements. And therefore, governance is owned at the highest level of the organization, usually the board, in some cases, the C level or senior management as well, if it is delegated, or if the board doesn't exist. And therefore, governance sets direction. Without clear governance policies and principles, it is not possible to make accurate decisions at any other level of the organization. And COBIT aligns with the latest views on governance. What that means is, as time progresses, more and more things emerge within governance needs and requirements. For example, currently we are looking at sustainability as a key aspect to be considered in governance, evaluation, direction, and monitoring. And who knows what else will come in the future. Again, sustainability was just an example, and there could be other things as well, which I did not mention. Then we have the other bullet at the bottom here, the sub-bullet, that is, COBIT 5 covers all functions and processes required to govern and manage enterprise information and related technologies, wherever that information may be processed. So it is not necessary that information is created, managed, maintained, archived, removed, etc., only by the IT department, but everywhere in all functions, all departments. Therefore, COBIT 5 will address and does address all relevant internal, external IT services, internal, external business processes as well. Remember, COBIT is a business framework, not an IT framework, but it's a business framework for governance and management of enterprise IT. So IT comes afterwards, business comes first. Then on this, even though we are still in the principle 2 covering the enterprise end-to-end, it's also linked closely to other principles, particularly principle 4 and 5. The first bullet here is about principle 4, which is the holistic provisioning by COBIT 5 on the governance and management of enterprise IT. And it is basically, the principle 2 was about enabling a holistic approach. Therefore, we see here, based on this management governance of enterprise IT is based on several enablers, which are enterprise-wide and end-to-end. And therefore, This principle 2 about covering the enterprise end-to-end also implies a bit of principle 4 because the enablers need to be enterprise-wide and end-to-end. So, for example, the cultural enabler applies to the entire organization rather than just to a specific department. And so the end-to-end here means inclusive of everything and everyone, internal, external, which is relevant to the governance and management of the enterprise IT. And we have seen already that it's not just about IT, it's also about IT, non-IT, and meaning other business functions and all business functions. The second bullet here is about one of the enablers, which is the information enabler. And just as an example, however, COBIT 5 enablers allow every stakeholder to define extensive and complete requirements for information and its life cycle. This is only for the information enabler. And because businesses need information, and there needs to be a connection between business information and the IT function so that the IT and information can support the business and the business context. We have this picture here, gives us more meaning about governance. The governance approach here means the end-to-end governance approach, which is at the foundation of COBIT 5, showing the key components of a governance system. So COBIT 5 governance approach has, first of all, at the top, we see here the governance objective, which is about value creation, which includes three components: benefits realization, risk optimization, and resource optimization, which need to be in balance. Any disturbance of any of these three may lead to decrease of value or even increase of value. Then we have governance enablers. These are essentially the same, the 7 enablers of COBIT 5. Again, these enablers are closely connected with governance because enablers allow fulfillment of the enterprise objectives. And in fact, governance also is in place only for the purpose of achieving the enterprise objectives. So enablers form a key component of the governance approach. Then governance scope, we'll take a look at what that is. And then there is governance roles, activities, and relationships. So governance has mainly the governance objective, the purpose of governance, that is to set direction, etc. And then governance approach, which includes the 3 main elements: the governance enablers, which we know very well now, at least at a high level. Then it includes the governance scope, and then the roles, activities, and relationships. Let's anyway take a look at all of these one by one. The enablers first. These are the organization resources. These are interacting components of the organization, which help to achieve the governance objectives. And these include enablers such as framework principles. Then we have the structures of the organization. Then we have processes with their practices, information, and so on. And using this, actions could be directed and objectives can be achieved. Enablers, there are some other enablers also, for example, which are resource-based enablers, such as service capabilities, which include IT infrastructure, applications, and services. And also we have people and information, the other 2 enablers. Without the enablers, the enterprise may not be able to create value. Therefore, the governance enablers, the 7 of them, become one of the 3 key elements of the governance approach. Now, the 7 enablers are the COBIT proposed, but an organization can have their own unique enablers as well, some of them overlapping with the COBIT 5 enablers.